thank you so much, Professor Delwar Hossain, for joining me. So we'll have a special session today. The premise is basically you wrote an article in a leading newspaper in Bangladesh on the current Rohingya situation. And recently, like 3 very high-profile diplomats went to Bangladesh, and they tried to promise, like pledged lots of resources for the situation. So like we can start from there. I mean, before that, will you be kindly give us some kind of brief, like what's the latest on the Rohingya situation?
Okay, thank you very much for having me. And you see, the current phase of the Rohingya crisis has passed 5 years, and it has in fact reached in its 6th year. And I think the crisis is continuing, but of course, I mean, it has taken different dimensions. Particularly in the beginning, there was an expectation that the crisis might not linger or might not continue for long. But now, what we can see that it is continuing, and particularly the change in Myanmar in terms of domestic politics. We have seen the changes of regime since February 2021. There was a military coup in Myanmar, and a military government is in power. So we can see certain changes in Myanmar's domestic politics, as well as the Rohingya crisis itself. But what we have observed, I mean, of course, I mean, there is an attention from the global community to resolve the crisis. But at the same time, we know that this problem continues, the crisis continues, because the Myanmar government has not so far taken back a single Rohingya as part of repatriation. Although they did the same kind, I mean, they repatriated several 100,000 Rohingyas in the 90s. But this time they have shown, utter defiance to the call from the UN to different great powers and international organizations. And most importantly, you know, Bangladesh and Myanmar have engaged in diplomatic negotiations. They have signed several documents, and the Myanmar government has also committed to the international bodies to take the Rohingyas back from Bangladesh. But what we have seen, the number of Rohingyas is increasing. Now Bangladesh is hosting about 1.2 million Rohingyas in the camps. But one important aspect of this crisis is that different countries, particularly the US, UN, and even some Muslim countries, and also we have seen that the role of ASEAN very positive to resolve the crisis, and also they are continuing to support Bangladesh's diplomatic initiative, and also what we think at this moment very important is that since the Rohingyas are staying for almost for an uncertain period, so they need assistance, they need humanitarian support. And because there are 2 aspects of this crisis. One is, of course, they need to go back, and Rohingyas are willing to go back, but for which there is a need for conducive environment in Myanmar, which is not present yet. So the repatriation is not possible at this moment. Then, as they are staying in the camps, so they need support from the international community, and that's why different countries and also international organizations are providing support, and at the same time are continuing their diplomatic initiative so that Myanmar becomes kind of positive to repatriation of the Rohingyas. And there is another aspect of this crisis is that the justice of the Rohingyas in terms of the trial of genocide. What the Myanmar military did to the Rohingyas, it is genocide, and the U.S. government recently declared that it is a case of genocide, and also we know that International Court of Justice has also given interim verdict about this issue, that the persecution that was committed to the Rohingyas is genocide, and it's a crimes against humanity. So this is also another aspect, legal aspect that Myanmar military is facing. So now we can see three-pronged strategy, three-pronged situation in which we seek that support from the international community diplomatically to resolve the crisis, financially to support the Rohingyas for their survival and for ensuring their basic human rights, and also to ensure justice for the Rohingyas.
Like, I mean, a couple of technicalities. Yeah. I mean, like in terms of like genocide, because it's a very powerful thing, and if a powerful state like USA acknowledges that genocide been committed, and that means like USA has to act. And so far I saw, like in terms of money, they're quite generous. I think they spend like almost $1.3 billion. But at the same time, the recent acknowledgement about genocide, do you think that's a game changer? Because now there'll be more push, because now they acknowledge this legal term. They have to act, and they have to do something about that.
Yeah, you see, for the first time, I think it was a game changer when the UN recognized the persecution against the Rohingyas as a textbook case of ethnic cleansing. And that was a great recognition, and about this torture and oppression against the Rohingyas, and gradually we found that some other Western countries like France, UK also considered it as genocide, and we also know that some Muslim countries like Malaysia, Indonesia, and also of course Bangladesh has been saying this for long. So with this background, when we have observed U.S. Secretary of State Antony Blinken officially declared that this is a case of genocide, of course it is a huge recognition, and not only recognition, and I fully agree with you that it also creates a sort of responsibility and burden on the international community to resolve the crisis as early as possible and to ensure justice for the Rohingyas. So from that point of view, I think it's a game changer because US took some time, and finally they fully investigated and observed different incidents, different evidence behind it, and they checked it. They finally declared it as a case of genocide, and that I think has also influenced U.S. Role in this case. That what we recently observed, that U.S. become more active to resolve the crisis, to deal with the crisis, and we could see a very clear distinction that before recognition of this case as genocide, and after recognition of the case of genocide, U.S. has beefed up its initiatives.
I'm not sure, like, whether this would be fair to you. Like, to give a kind of like some kind of understanding about the current Myanmar's regime. So obviously the Aung San Suu Kyi did not play a good role in terms of Rohingyas, like repatriation, or like I think she played a very bad role. The way she was, the persona she created over the decades even, and she got Nobel Peace Prize and all those things. And from there to like suddenly, kind of almost like genocidal regime. And then suddenly she's gone. Now the army came to power, who are the original perpetrator of this genocide. And like two moot points are like Myanmar still did not recognize Rohingya as their citizens. So they still treat them as Bengalis or they're from Bangladesh. So kind of statelessness kind of things there. So these things are not changing. And do you think that will remain so? But at the same time, the problem is if Myanmar stick to that point, then Rohingyas will not feel safe to go back to the country where they're not treated humanely or deprived of their, like basic rights.
Yeah, see, it is a dilemma. Particularly, we know that Rohingya crisis is a very complicated one, but particularly for the point that you have raised. Myanmar has 1982 citizenship law, and that law has specific provision for someone becoming the citizen of Myanmar. And they have deliberately deprived of Rohingyas their citizenship rights they used to enjoy even in the 50s and 60s. So, so this is a very legal question, and this is something that Myanmar started since 1982. But for the Rohingyas, I think, of course, they are very expected kind of a situation is that they would be recognized as the citizens. But on the other hand, realistically speaking, I mean, they would also accept, or it is very normal to accept that if they receive the same condition from which they were expelled or they were forced to leave their country, they were persecuted, although their citizenship situation or status was not resolved or was not in order, but they used to enjoy certain rights, certain benefits, and also certain environment in which they could live a normal life. Although, I mean, they suffered, but still they could live. And that life is also important. But what we see from the behavior of the Myanmar regime and their overall plan for Rakhine and for the entire place, it seems that they would not even get the situation get back the situation they were. So citizenship is absolutely it's something that we think is the ideal that before taking them back, Myanmar government should give them citizenship rights. But even the rights they used to enjoy, the houses they used to have, the villages they used to have, the land they used to have, Myanmar government should provide them back. Otherwise, of course, the Rohingyas would not feel safe and secure. And also, that they also need to be treated with dignity and with safety. So I think it is a little bit flexible in the sense that citizenship is fine, but even the guarantee of the environment in which they can move freely and they can enjoy their normal life can also assure the Rohingyas. But the Myanmar government is far from that even. So they do not want to even ensure the basic requirements of the Rohingyas' livelihood and their life in Rakhine. As we know, I mean, their houses had been burned down, their lands were confiscated, and they have been dispossessed. And although we know that China, India are constructing some houses or some program there, but so far I think it is not very clear to us, because Myanmar has not expressed as of today genuine interest or genuine will to take the Rohingyas back. So it is still very, very unclear what actually Myanmar has developed in Rakhine for the Rohingyas with the assistance from India, China, and some other countries or organizations, because they do not allow even the UN to visit Rakhine freely. So it is very closed kind of environment. So it is truly a situation which is unknown and unclear to the world. As long as Myanmar government doesn't show their cooperation for the Rohingya repatriation, we can't understand it.
No, I was reading the recent editions of The Economist, and the author was saying the remaining 600,000, around 600,000 Rohingyas who are still living in Myanmar, they're basically living in a kind of concentration camp. It's a kind of apartheid state they created. So they're not allowed to do things. They're not allowed to have access to the things that the normal citizens enjoy. So the way Myanmar kind of created this kind of narrative about the whole thing, basically the message is to the Rohingyas, don't come here. So like from there, I think the Rohingyas, this like repatriation, that ultimate dream, the like nirvana, they're going back to their original home and then live their lives, and then normal life. The prospect is not there at all, looks like. And then what Bangladesh has been doing over the years, and I think as a host, I think Bangladesh did an excellent job. They provided all the resources, the safety, security, the food, education, all kind of resources. Bangladesh is a poor country, but they try to mobilize all those resources around them. I'm just like a bit keen about, like, because you have been doing research on this for some time now. What's the personal experience like going back to those like refugee camps? What's your thought about that? What kind of things when you go there, you kind of think of that? Can you give us some kind of personal understanding?
Yeah, you see, of course, it is really, heartbreaking, and we know for long. I mean, not only since the very unfortunate episode that started in 2017. Even before, I visited the camps, and also after 2017, I visited the camps. The stories of the Rohingyas, the stories of sufferings of the Rohingyas, and the way they were treated, not only treated on 25th August or subsequently, even before. I mean, take the year of, say, 1992, 93, 94, 2000, 2012, or 2016. I mean, it is so inhuman. And you have mentioned the term apartheid. And this is precisely explains the treatment of the Myanmar regime about their own people, the Rohingyas. And the number is is not a small number. We have so many sovereign island countries in the world with far less population than the Rohingyas. So they are treating people whose number is not even, no one can even treat even a single person badly. But just for understanding of the realities, I'm saying that I mean treating such a huge number of people in an inhuman way, and apartheid is the right way to explain their behavior, because when they introduced the citizenship law, that was the culmination of their apartheid rule, and they continued this rule, and they introduced different card system for the Rohingyas. It is so inhuman, and then of course we have seen situations have deteriorated in Myanmar, and with the military coup, the regime has become not only brutal to the Rohingyas, even they have been brutal to their own people. People in the sense that those they call citizens, and even those who fondly call their people like Buddhist. So those who belong to the majority community, that is about 69% of Myanmar citizens are Buddhist, and they are even killing their own people. So the situation, if we consider from different dimensions, we are dealing with a regime who brutally killed and treated the Rohingyas, number one, who they declared back in 1982 as a stateless people, and then they have been treating their ethnic minority people, Shan, Karen, and many others, in a way that for which they are fighting the so-called insurgency war. And now we know there is a PDF in Myanmar. There is an alternative government in Myanmar, National Unity Government, and NLD as the largest, not only largest political party, it is the most popular party, and the party that won the elections by a big margin. And the supporters of this party, they are mercilessly treated. And a few days ago, we heard the news that the democracy activist young students were executed in the jail. So when we go to the camps, we not only hear the stories of torture against the Rohingyas, even we can see what Myanmar regime is doing to their to the people of their community. So that actually reminds me about the helplessness, about the situation that even not only Myanmar, even the world has not done enough for these people. You know, when there was apartheid in South Africa, the whole world was united. Of course, there was Cold War politics, and there were some difficulties, but by and large, UN could act, and they could impose widespread sanctions against the apartheid regime, and they created a kind of moral kind of position that the apartheid regime is anti-civilization, anti-humanity. But in the case of Myanmar, we could see that they are just doing business. They are in good terms with many powerful countries, and they are not under the same kind of pressure, same kind of situations that even we saw in the 60s and 70s and even 80s. But now we are much more civilized as a world. We are in advanced stage of civilization. We are in 2020, 2022. But what we see from the perspective of the Rohingyas, from the perspective of the people who have been persecuted, who have been the victims of genocide, they are not getting enough, I think, support from the global community. And we could see they are the victims of geopolitics, and they just you see, they do not expect that Myanmar regime would be under such pressure that they would be forced to at least accept them with their dignity and with the rights and positions they used to enjoy, although they were not the citizens of Myanmar, but they had some basic guarantee of survival. So it is really a sense of I would say sense of understanding the limitations of global politics, the limitations of the world order that we see today. This world order could not actually help these 1.2 million Rohingyas in Bangladesh, and about 1 million in different other countries in the world, and then about 600,000 Rohingyas in Myanmar, and particularly 120,000 IDPs, internally displaced Rohingyas, in the no man's land in Myanmar. So it is a kind of feelings that I think we should not. We should not expect that these people will continue to suffer, and we must have our responsibility, our duty to the call of humanity, and to support these people.
One of the things came out from this, like recent visits by these diplomats, especially to Assistant Secretary of State. I think she was saying that US is quite keen to take around 100,000 refugees. They did not mention specifically Rohingya, but they're saying that they will take around 100,000 refugees around the world, and then they try to repatriate them to the USA. Do you think Bangladesh can make a kind of good case there? Because it looks like, the Rohingyas will be here for some time. The way things are in Myanmar, we are seeing one of the most brutal regime in power right now. It also means they will not do any business with in terms of repatriation or anything to do with human rights thing. So I think Bangladesh has to find other ways as well to manage this serious humanitarian crisis. We are talking about more than 1 million people. This is a large number of population, so the largest refugee camps in the world, and they're the most persecuted people in the world. What's your take on that? Can Bangladesh do something about that? Push more diplomatically so that more people can be not to Myanmar but to another third state, where they can actually have their peaceful life, normal life.
Yeah, you see, you are right. I mean, the U.S. Assistant Secretary of State, Julieta Noyes, visited Bangladesh in this month, in fact, and her visit was really significant for the Rohingya crisis, and of course, I mean, although it is not going to resolve the crisis, but at least for the Rohingyas and for Bangladesh, Bangladesh is also struggling with the presence of Rohingyas, because Bangladesh is not a country which has the ability or capabilities to allow them for staying for a long time. But Bangladesh is trying to provide its best for their support. But you are right. I think it gives a ray of hope. as I mentioned earlier, that the U.S. announced the resettlement program for vulnerable Rohingyas. Perhaps it is the only program that has been announced by any third country. I mean, it's as a very planned and a very clear policy to resettle whatever the number of the Rohingyas, but the very idea of resettlement and to take them as part of the program, I think it is a very good step. And under this step, we know that US has already received a few numbers, and we know about 62 Rohingyas are supposed to move to. Some of them have already moved to the states, but as you have rightly mentioned, that they have announced to take 1 lakh people as refugees in each year, and I think US could consider the Rohingyas as people who deserve most to be considered for such kind of resettlement. But this is, I mean, here, of course, Bangladesh is trying on many fronts to resolve the crisis, to mitigate the crisis, to support the Rohingyas. And Bangladesh is seeking international assistance for Rohingyas in the camps. And even Bangladesh has built a new shelter for the Rohingyas in Bhasan on its own fund, on its own finance. So Bangladesh is very much eager to seek support, and Bangladesh has taken it very, very positively that US is willing to take Rohingyas to their country. And in fact, the program the US has announced, it is in partnership with the government of Bangladesh and also UNHCR. So it is a sort of tripartite kind of arrangement. The US government, Bangladesh government, and UNHCR, and that could contribute to take the Rohingyas to USA. But yes, the number could be increased, and for which, of course, Bangladesh should try and should talk to the US. And I believe that US is very much proactive, on the issue of the Rohingyas, because when the U.S. Assistant Secretary was visiting Bangladesh, she met the Rohingyas in Cox's Bazar. She went to Bhasan and she talked to these people, and she heard their stories of sufferings, stories of oppression, and U.S. Assistant Secretary of State very clearly said that US always stands beside Bangladesh and also beside the Rohingyas, and also US Secretary of State emphatically mentioned that this crisis should not go unnoticed, because we know the world is facing some other crisis, some other problems, and particularly the Ukraine war has created a new reality for the world, and that has also redirected attention of some powers about to different set of problems. But U.S. Secretary of State, Assistant Secretary of State, clearly mentioned that not only U.S., I mean the whole world should not stop providing attention to this problem. So US will remain engaged with the Rohingya crisis, and US will continue to support diplomatically to resolve the crisis, and at the same time will take the Rohingyas to their country. And also, I think this would have some demonstration effect on other countries. You know, it is not only US. There are some other countries who can also take the same position, same policies, and that would mitigate the problem. and Bangladesh can emphasize it in its diplomacy, in its negotiations at bilateral level, so that I mean this problem would I mean somehow it would be minimized, and it would particularly for the Rohingyas it would provide some hope, some opportunities to live a safe and secure lives. And even, if Myanmar is willing to take them back, and we don't know when it will happen, but they can go not only from Bangladesh, they can go to Myanmar from anywhere they would live. So resettlement in third country or living in third country doesn't mean that they would live there forever. If they are welcome in Myanmar, if they are given minimum conditions and particularly their citizenship back, so I think definitely they would go back. Many of them, I am sure, would go back. So I think the U.S. Efforts for the Rohingyas would definitely is very positive, and it will not only help the Rohingyas, it is also very positive for Bangladesh, because Bangladesh is looking for more support, more assistance for the Rohingyas, and I fully agree with you that it is an opportunity for Bangladesh and for the Rohingyas to engage more dialogue and discussion with the US, so that I mean they could be resettled to the US in more numbers, and also same policy can be pursued by other countries. And I would like to also emphasize here that G7 is also a forum that may consider the sufferings of the Rohingyas. We don't see much concrete initiative from other powers, particularly big powers, to take the Rohingyas or to solve the problem seriously. We can see it from the UN General Assembly voting and on some other occasions. But G7 countries, I think, have their common stance on many global issues. So they could, I think, think of following the same policy that US has announced, and also US is implementing them for the Rohingyas.
Like, I'm not sure whether you can comment on this. I mean, you don't have to, but I think one of the issue is, I think you mentioned briefly about this relocating these Rohingyas from Cox's Bazar to another place called Bhasan Char. And it's been not a popular idea internationally. And also, I think it created lots of debate about that, whether this is a good idea to relocate these people. But I mean, my understanding is, I actually went to those cities like Cox's Bazar. Cox's Bazar is not a big city. The Cox's Bazar cannot accommodate 1.3 million people there. That the place is already crowded. So physically, it kind of makes sense to relocate some of those refugees from one place to another place. But at the same time, that's a kind of long-term kind of situation. If situation gets more protracted, then Bangladesh has to manage those things internally. But at the same time, if the other things can open up, the way the US is now pledging that they will take more people from those persecuted community, that's a good sign. You mentioned about G7 or any other Western countries. If they're quite willing to open up their borders for these persecuted people, those are all good news. But in the short run, there might be a good possibility there numbers of Rohingyas will be relocated from Cox's Bazar to Bhasan Char. I'm not sure, like whether, I mean, did you go to that place, like Bhasan Char? I mean, how far it is from Cox's Bazar?
Yeah, I visited Bhasan
Okay,
Char. In fact,
that's good.
I traveled, and in fact, before it started to accept the Rohingyas, I visited the place, and I found it quite well, in the sense that it's not very far from Chittagong, and also you see some of the issues that were raised by the donors and by some organizations, that the place is not very safe. But that was also addressed by the government, because the Navy of Bangladesh constructed the entire project, and it was made in such a way that it would not face any cyclone or any kind of flood, and so it is a quite secure place, and also it has accommodated some modern facilities. And if you see the picture, and I have seen, I have went. I mean, I have gone to the rooms built for them. So I think it is. I mean, it is a temporary shelter for the Rohingyas. Of course, I mean, Rohingyas are willing to go back to their countries, but there should be a conducive environment for that. But as long as they remain in Bangladesh, of course, I mean, this provides a good option for at least for 100,000 Rohingyas from Cox's Bazar. You have already mentioned this Kutupalam camp, and some other camps are there. They are so crowded and so shabby because of the I mean, shortage of space and also lack of resources. Bangladesh has given its own land, and at the same time, it is difficult to provide very provide shelters and other things. That depends on the support from international community, but still they are in better condition, of course, than Myanmar, but they need to have some some better environment, and Bhasan Char provides that kind of opportunity. So it is by distance, it is not very far, and the Rohingyas are used to, because Rakhine is a province of Myanmar, which is on the bank of the Bay of Bengal. It's a coastal zone, and so Rohingyas could easily live there. There are some opportunities for livelihoods. They could go for fishing, and they could go for some small trading there, and they can go for some. I saw there that some gardening, commercial gardening is possible there. So gradually, this place could be definitely a good option, at least for 100,000 Rohingyas, or for the Rohingyas, those who could go there, and it would definitely reduce pressure on the camps in Cox's Bazar, and initially. Of course, since it is a new kind of project, and it is surrounded by water, and donors were a bit apprehensive. But now, what we have seen, that the UN representatives visited the place. US, UK, Chinese, Indian, many nations, representatives from many nations also visited. So they are now quite happy about the conditions of Bhasan Char. So I think this is another kind of support from Bangladesh side to mitigate the sufferings of the Rohingyas and to support the Rohingyas. But of course, it also needs international assistance because running camps and shelters in Bhasan Char requires financial support from the international community. But we have seen that the donors are also committing funds for Bhasan Char and at the same time Cox's Bazar camps. So yeah, I think it is a very positive kind of initiative from the government of Bangladesh that the Rohingyas, some of the Rohingyas are relocated within Bangladesh. Mm-hmm. It is within the even this island is surrounded. Is bordering with some other islands where actually Bangladeshi people are living there. So it is not very far from those localities. So I think it is a new opportunity for the Rohingyas, and also to address the issues of rights, and even the Rohingyas need education, and Bhasan Char has schools, and they have opportunities for the young people and children for getting education there in a very structured way, in a very systematic way. So I believe that it has added to the support system that Bangladesh and global community have for the Rohingyas in Bangladesh.
Thank you so much, Professor Delwar Hossain.